Going to call the regular meeting of council to order for Monday, December 15th. Before I do approve the agenda, I want to move bylaws, so I want to move them to just above the consent agenda. So obviously, I'm going to say it's going to be 6.1 for bylaws. So 6.1 will be for the business bylaw, and 6.2 will be for fees and charges bylaw. We'll get through those and then explain it later on why. I can take that as a motion, and I'll take a seconder. Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Even once we get the first three readings done, if they get done tonight, staff needs this approved so that they can do some background work on it before it's finalized and before holidays. So staff's going to be asking for a special meeting to be called for tomorrow. So the sooner that we get those read, the sooner that we can start that meeting. That's why I want to do it. Take a vote on that. All in favor of the movement? Carried. Approve the amended agenda, please. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor, that the December 15th, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as amended.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana. All in favor? Carried. Minutes for December 1st, 2025 regular council meeting minutes be adopted. December 1st, 2025 regular council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. I'm going to do it myself. Councillor Noxana.
That the December 1st, 2025 regular council meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Any errors or omissions from council? Staff?
No.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. December 9th, 2025 special council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Noxana.
That the December 9th, 2025 special council meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. Any errors or omissions from council? Staff?
No.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes, council? Staff?
No.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to bylaws. 8.1, business license bylaw number 757, 2025, readings. Report dated December 15th, 2025 from the Director of Corporate Services, seeking three readings of the business license bylaw number 757, 2025, one recommendation at a time. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor, that council gives first reading to the business license bylaw number 757, 2025.
Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Second reading, please. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor, that council gives second reading to the business license bylaw number 757, 2025.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana. Discussion. Just again, if there's any changes, this is a time to make them or request them per motion. A lot easier than repealing the third reading. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Third reading, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor, that council gives third reading to the business license bylaw number 757, 2025.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to fees and charges amendment bylaw number 758, 2025. Report dated December 15, 2025 from the Director of Corporate Services, seeking the readings of fees and charges amendment bylaw number 758, 2025. Recommendation one, please. Councillor Noxana.
The council gives first reading to the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 758, 2025.
Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Second reading, Councillor Noxana.
The council gives second reading to the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 758, 2025.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Again, I'll make a comment that this is the time if you want to have any changes or something you want to add by motion, this is the time to do it. And then we don't have to repeal a third reading. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Take the third reading, Councillor Noxana.
The council gives third reading to the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 758, 2025.
Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor, that all items in the December 15th, 2025 consent agenda be moved for information.
Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Any items council like to bring forward for discussion? Before I go to the two councillors, I am going to just mention it. I mentioned it to staff already. I was going to mention it in front of council to make sure that we're okay with it. I've asked staff just to kind of stop adding all the M216s in front of councils in the agenda. I mean, obviously paper. If there is some, which we've already received more for the next meeting we have. So I believe Ms. Scott said there's another 3 or 4 or 5 already. That if, she could just advise council, she's received 6, and if somebody wants to go in and read them, they can. Is that fair? Okay, good. Councilor Norbury and then Councilor Noxana.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to bring forward 7.11 for discussion, please.
Seconder, Councilor Noxana, all in favor? Carried. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have a letter from the Premier, and there's the second paragraph. Doesn't sound like something that we talked about. The Premier's office says that we were planning to establish a nonprofit society to support the district housing needs. I recall that was the opposite. We do not have the capacity, and we're looking for BC Housing to fulfill their obligations in building low-cost nonprofit housing.
Yep, I agree with you. Thank you for bringing it up because I had it marked as well.
So I would like to motion to write back to the, slow down, Slee. I'd like to motion that we write back to the Premier's office to clarify we do not have the capacity to create a nonprofit society and want BC Housing to build low-income housing and,
Okay, seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. I just want to be clear on this too. Is, myself and Ms. Scott, but more Ms. Scott than myself at this point, has been dealing with BC Housing on the backside of this. So they've had some communication, and I'm well aware of it. I know they just met here. I think it was last week, and it was still reinstated from our side that the property on Chamberlain is not the district's. That is actually owned by BC Housing. So there is a difference when it comes to that one, where it's not district lot looking to build housing, and it's actually owned by them. So I know Ms. Scott's been working very hard with them. Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, obviously I wasn't at the meeting with the Premier, but I do recall at our Let's Talk meeting that there was a resident that brought forward the possibility of looking into that option of a nonprofit pursuing some sort of housing option at the Chamberlain area. Is that not in the works anymore, or you haven't heard?
It hasn't gone anywhere from there.
It was Miss Snyder, I believe.
Yep, hasn't gone anywhere from there. I know, like again, I can only speak on what staff has been working on myself, and we've been very in conversation with Amy Wong from BC Housing. I know Ms. Scott has been, I have been, still circling the same thing. This is their land. Do I think somebody may come forward? I mean, they need to come forward, and then we can direct them to the right channel. At this point, the letter states that we were looking at doing it. We did not discuss that. Any other discussion from council? Call the question on the motion. All in favor? Carried. Any other items council like to bring forward for discussion? Councillor Noxana.
7.15, West Moberly First Nation.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Noxana.
Thank you. West Moberly is inviting us to have a chat about a MOU, and I'm happy to be part of that meeting and hopeful that we can pick a date to get back to them before the Christmas holidays, just so we can have some stuff settled for them.
Yeah, I suggest that we maybe throw out some concepts, and hopefully people have looked at their schedules and what they're available for or not available for, so we can do that. It kind of meets all of council's schedule, hopefully.
My suggestion is either the first 2 dates proposed in January or anything in February.
Council's thoughts? I just got to check my schedule again. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Not to be contrarian, but I'm unavailable. The only date I'm unavailable of all these dates would be the 8th. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Julik.
I'm available for the 7th and 8th, as Councillor Noxana suggested.
I'm unavailable for the 7th, for sure. So I think we need to really, I mean, I think maybe we should just have staff, direction of staff to set a doodle poll to council. I think that's the best way to do it. Gives everybody an opportunity to weigh into it and then go from that. Okay. We don't need a motion. I'll talk to Ms. Scott. We'll just do it. I just think that's probably the best. Location, I'd prefer, to be honest, I think it's our turn to head to West Moberly. I mean, we can only suggest that we're willing to come to West Moberly First Nations to have the meeting. I mean, it'll be up to them, and if they prefer to come here, I mean, we'll leave it up to the First Nations chief and council, but it'd be an great opportunity for us to travel there and meet them at their nation, so it'd be one of my suggestions that we meet there. Okay, any other items council like to bring forward for discussion? Councillor Jilek.
7.13, please.
7.13, okay, for discussion. Seconder, Councillor Noxana. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Jilek.
I would like to get permission or make a motion, whichever you would prefer, to attend the LGLA in March. I think that Local Government Leadership Academy, and I just think if there's something that can be learned, like I think it could be something that we could all do, as we've reflected that maybe our onboarding wasn't as good as maybe we would have liked to. This is kind of what this is about. I would like to attend, but I don't know what's the next step, so I thought.
I would send it back to staff to get us the information for cost, for travel for
Okay.
per councillor. That's how I would do it, do a motion. That way, without having it, we don't know approximate for hotel costs, obviously, flights or whatever. Just
Okay, yeah, and it has till February 9th for the reservation.
Well, I'll get it
points
in
for
the
the
meeting in
thing, so
January. I just put a motion that we get the travel information back into the council.
I'd like to make a motion that we ask staff to get back to us on the costs of council to attend the LGLA Forum 2026.
2026.
Yeah.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bertrand's opposed. Motion carries. Any other items council like to bring forward for discussion? Councillor Bertrand? No? All right. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor. 7.14 for discussion, please.
Seconder, Councillor Julik. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to motion that we attend or we opt in to the BC Hydro customer reception in Prince George.
Yep, I just make a comment. Feel free to send your RSVP. This is during resource.
Yeah, but the invitation is intended for the recipient, so this was sent to the District of Tumbler Ridge. We would need to apply for it through the district, wouldn't we?
No, you can do it. I'll send you the link. Yeah, it's by council. It's whatever councils are attending them. I've already gotten the link to do it. I mean, you can have staff do it for you.
That's my motion.
Okay, is there anybody to second the motion to have staff do it? Councillor Noxana? Discussion? I'm not going to support it. I think as councillors, we can fill that out ourselves. I mean, staff's at capacity. We talk about stuff into doing our RVSP is pretty straightforward. Any other discussion? Sorry, Councillor Noxana?
Thank you. I think if it's probably a pretty easy RSVP, whether it gets sent to people or staff hits RSVP, is going to be just the same amount of time.
Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor. This was not sent to my email, so I do not have access to this link, and this says specifically for the invitee only. That's why I'm bringing it forward at this point in time, because it was sent to the district. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's Councillor Bertrand, Councillor Judek, Mayor Kakak is opposed. Motion is defeated. Any other items council like to bring forward for discussion? Okay. Okay, moving on to new business, District of Tumbler Ridge 2024 Annual Report. Report dated December 15, 2025, from the Director of Corporate Services, seeking adoption of the District of Tumbler Ridge 2024 Annual Report. Recommendation, please. Councillor Noxana.
That the District of Tumbler Ridge 2024 Annual Report be adopted as circulated.
Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. 2026 council meeting schedule, report dated December 15, 2025, from the Director of Corporate Services, proposing a 2026 council meeting schedule for council's consideration. Recommendation, please. Councillor Noxana.
The council approved the 2026 council meeting schedule as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Julich. Discussion? Councillor Hoffman?
Just want to say, I think they did a really good job in September in particular to manage 3 meetings in a conference and everything else, so nice job.
Just so council aware, there'll be more meetings to come once the budget is, calendar is figured out. We're talking probably February. They're a bit behind, so it looks like it'll be full for February and March. Just so council's aware. Call the question, all in favor? Carried. 9.3, 2026 Additional Staff Planning and Development Coordinator, report dated December 15, 2025, from the Director of Economic and Community Development regarding Additional Staff Planning and Development Coordinator. Recommendation, please, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. That council approved the creation of a planning and development coordinator position as a 2-year contracted role beginning in 2026, and that the position be funded through the combination of the Growing Communities Fund, the South Peace Mackenzie Trust, if approved, and taxation as outlined in the financial budget implications section of this report, and that council approved by resolution the district submitting an application to the South Peace Mackenzie Trust for $142,500 to support the proposed 2-year planning and development coordinator position.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana. Discussion? Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not in favor of this motion. $130,000 salary is extensive, in my opinion. I'm curious. I didn't see in the report on contractor costs of what we've used over the last few years. I certainly understand that we are moving into a situation where we are planning and developing more. Looking at the responsibilities of our ECDEV department, it's really unfortunate that we don't have a involved Chamber of Commerce, because I believe the role of the Chamber of Commerce has a lot to do with what our department is taking on at the moment. And if we did have that invested chamber, we could take a lot of these responsibilities off of our department. I would much more prefer training the people that we have in that department in order to be able to answer the questions that we have. I do like the funding option of this. However, I'm just not in favor of adding more staff at this time.
Okay. Ms. Cook, do you have the contracting costs? It's mentioned in the report how we use contractors for some of the stuff. It doesn't, I went through it, it didn't have any, we spend an average of $10,000 or $40,000 a year. It's still stated within the background that we'd still be using contractors even if this position is approved and filled.
I don't have those numbers.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Noxana.
Thank you. I would agree that our ECDEV has a lot on their plate, and partially due to the lack of an active chamber in our community. I see this position as a huge win for Tumbler Ridge. If we get the funding allocated, this is costing taxpayers $20,000 over 2 years to have an extra individual who can do planning and development specifically as a professional role. We want to see our community grow, and things like new communities or like, new subdivisions or things happen, we need something like this in our municipality. And that there's this much grant funding out for that to happen, it's a no-brainer for me that we would absolutely take advantage of all the funding available to us to be able to capitalize on that for our residents.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury and then Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in support as some of the big things that are happening in our community revolve around property development. We want to expand into rural residential lots out by the Saddle Club. We're looking at other areas in our community to expand, to add different sizes of lots in our community. This is something that's been on the slate for years and years, but that's a specialized service. I can appreciate the comments that it'd be nice to train in-house, but how long will that training go? We've been waiting for this for years and years, and even then, is that something that can be done over a online certificate, or even sending someone out for how long, and then how low will that area of organization be at reduced capacity because somebody is away for months at a time to take the training? This is specialized. If we go in as a municipality and we start developing, this is one of the concerns I had when we first started looking at rural lots, is that you can lose a lot of money by making mistakes because you're not in the know on how to do this. So we need specialized services. Contracted services, will that come to less than $20,000 over 2 years? I'm speculating, but I can't see how contracting someone to do all of the zoning work, the project planning for under $20,000. When we have grant funding right here, we have $140,000 available to us. So that's why I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman and myself.
Thank you, Mayor. Just looking at the proposed rate, we're looking at $65 an hour for a specialist, roughly 2,000 hour a year, and no future commitments. I think the ECDEV has been very clear that they are running at capacity plus and have taken on a bunch of tasks that ideally would have been taken elsewhere. But as far as I'm concerned, the departments have been doing a lot with the resources they have. And I mean, it would have been a much harder question for me if they were proposing a full-time position, but they're not. They're going with a 2-year contract, which I think is very reasonable. We can see how that works out. And if you're going to look at salary and benefits of a full-time employee, I don't think we would be much different from the 130. Benefits add up real quick, and if we're just doing a contracted rate, that's really not a bad rate. So I appreciate doing the 2-year temporary, and I would like to see that department get some more support for the next couple of years. So in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess before I go to Councillor, my only concern here is I think we've got to be careful. We're talking, grant money. It hasn't been approved. So we don't know that's being funded by grant. Councillor Norbury, you mentioned that this is great because it's only $20,000 for taxation. But if you don't get approved for the grant, it's added. It's actually $91,000 would be grant funded, district taxation. Right, so that's, I think, when you apply for a grant, you got to apply for it first before, if it's not approved, I think there's a different conversation. When we have it put in front of us in regards to that, applying for a grant, just because we're applying for a grant does not mean we get it. And that would be my concern, is doing this, we don't get the grant, we don't know where we are in budget in regards to what our percent increase is this year for our residents. We don't, like last year, it was not all the budget is true. I think we're going to see a lot of reports coming forward for unbudgeted dollars. We've seen it with the boilers at the community center already. I believe there's some others coming forward as well. I mean, I don't know that, but I can see it. Like, you can see that they're scrounging to make sure they can grasp the end of the year in some of the budgets. So to me, my only concern is when we say that, our taxation is $15,000 and $5,000 for 2 years, so it's a $20,000 in taxation. It could not. It might be higher than that. You might be adding the extra $142,500 into taxation, possibly. So that'd be my only concern there, is maybe it needs to be grant dependent in the conversation, or that, because to me, again, we haven't had a budget conversation or anything like that to see where we are sitting within the budget. Last week we had, last meeting, was that last week? Sure it was. We did electrician with a pre-approval that going into the budget with some costs there. So that's already going to get added. So, again, I look at, we haven't even seen a whole budget in front of our council yet. Sounds like we will see that in February at the start of that, whatever is coming forward for capital and stuff. So that's my only concern there. Councillor Julik and then Councillor Knoxaddle.
So I see further into the report, it says that if we are unsuccessful with the South Peace Mackenzie Trust grant, that we would take the funds from the Growing Communities Fund. And I see that we have $650,000 remaining there. So my question would be, has there previously been any plans for that $650,000 that we would be, putting off because we would go to this?
Yeah, that would be up to council. There's lots of things that can be used for. Lots of things that could be coming forward that funds could be used for. Has it been planned for? We have not planned for it. This council hasn't.
Okay, well, I'm just seeing, so there's nothing in the report that talks about that, so we have to utilize them by 2028, and that we've utilized $1,010,000 of it, and there's $650 remaining. So I'm just wondering if there had been previous talks in our budget around this growing community funds, or if this was something that we would be discussing during this budget talk period.
Ms. Scott?
We have not, so that 658,000 that has not been unallocated, we have not had discussions about how we may be allocating that yet.
Okay. All right, so for me, just reading the report and seeing the pieces that have not been taken care of, because we haven't had a planner for some time, though we did have one before, I see that there's a lot of different plans in place for a planner. And in times like this, I feel like when things get piecemealed, that's when things get missed. And that's my concern, particularly if it's land that we're selling or land that we're developing. I feel like we need somebody with an expertise in that field. To Councillor Bertrand's point, I agree with you. I think that the ECDev department is doing things that maybe would fall within another group, possibly the chamber, possibly a business. Like I think there could be any pieces of that. I feel like that's not something we can count on in the next following 2 years. So for me, I'll be in support of it. I would be fine to use the Growing Community Fund dollars for that, for the 2 years, simply because I think it's important for our community to have that in place, even if it's to set up systems where somebody in succession could come back and do those things. So I will be in support of the motion as it reads, understanding. I guess my other question would be, there's nothing in this motion that keeps us from going ahead if we don't get the South Peace Mackenzie Trust money. Because
No.
it's saying if position be funded through a combination of Growing Communities Fund and the trust and taxation. So if we didn't get the South Peace Mackenzie Trust, this motion, having it written like that, that doesn't prevent us from just using the Growing Community
I
Funds.
think it'd have to come forward.
It would have to come back?
I believe
Okay.
so. Ms. Scott?
No, the way the motion is worded is that if we were not successful in the South Peace Mackenzie Trust, that we would use that Growing Communities Fund and only 15,000 would come from taxation.
Okay, there you go. Councillor Noxana?
I turned mine off.
Nope. Okay, I have a couple things. If we're going to do this, I don't believe that we should be just using the growing community funds. To me, if we're unsuccessful, and we won't know where we're at, if we're unsuccessful in regards to the South Peace Mackenzie Trust, I don't think we should just automatically start using funds that are slated for other things. When you read it up, and staff did a really good report on the Growing Communities Fund about where it can be used and where it can't be. Yeah, it can be used for a minute on certain things, and it talks about that. You can read up. It's actually, you can go in deeper on it when you go online and read it up. Again, I don't know if we should be starting to use funds that are actually meant for capital projects in regards to what it was set up for, and growth. So whether that's playgrounds and such like that, then for staff. To me, when we talk about staff, and to me, I rather, if we're going to add staff, just no different than the previous ones we've done, it's taxation. To me, when we have other things that we can use these funds for, and we have 3 years still to use that fund, two more budget cycles. Like, it doesn't take long to use it on certain capital items that may come forward. That's my only concern on that one. Councillor Bertrand and then Councillor Jelic.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm still not in favor of this, unfortunately. Like I say, I do like the creative financing of it. 2-year temporary tells me 2 years, and then we make it permanent. I'm not aware of the community having a community planner in the time that I've been here. That's what we've used Urban Systems for their expertise on a number of occasions. Yeah, I'm just not in favor of, I would rather train in-house.
Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask staff, is there a plan to keep this position on after 2 years? In the report, it's very clearly 2 years. Councillor Bertrand's alluding to that it's longer.
Yeah, so it says, in my opinion, the report says it, background says 2 years with it coming back for information with the, roundabout of what they were able to accomplish, and if they think the opinion, or in their opinion, it's value to keep that position longer. But Ms. Scott, that's how I read the report. Ms. Scott?
Yeah, the intention is after the end of the 2 years. that ideally we are at a place where we may not need to continue the position, but I think that at the end of that 2 years, depending on the results of what that position has been able to accomplish and maybe what there is still to be done, that there could potentially be discussion of extending the position.
Follow up, you're good.
I was of the opinion, this is 2 years. Like, that's all I'm interested in, 2 years, get as much done, then we're done. I'm not interested in a long-term or organizational rehire, so I can appreciate the comments there. I guess, how would that happen at the 2 years point? That'll have to come back to council to continue this position, or would this automatically be back in our budget without a council deliberation at that point?
No, it says within the report, I just can't remember if I find it, maybe Ms. Scott can direct us, but it was in there, I read it very thoroughly. Staff will come forward after the 2 years or before the 2 years up, advise whoever the elected officials are at the time, where they're sitting with this, what they've accomplished, and what their opinion is. That we've met the demand that we needed, or this position needs to be kept on, and this is why. So again, this could be an added position that continues on for, once it's added, it's hard to remove.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that explanation.
I mean, I can make Ms. Scott, I don't want to just give that to you, Council, honestly. I don't want to be the one that says this is how I read it. Ms. Scott, if we could just get clarity. That's my understanding in the report. It states that staff would reevaluate it. It says at the 2 year mark. I'm assuming it's before 2 years, probably just before. Come back to whoever's the elected officials at the time, explain where we're at, what the opinion is that, the 2 years will be completed after the 2 year mark, or we need to add this position on a continuous basis. That's my understanding of how I read the report. Get clarity from staff.
Yes, and so the section in the report that you're referring to, it's the second paragraph above the legal considerations.
Thank you.
We're calling this a 2 year pilot.
Yeah, and this pilot does not commit council to long-term staffing increases.
No, it would have to come back. Yeah, like it's not automatic. It comes back with a report.
Thank you. So one of the other things that I was looking for information about is we're talking about how we could complete these projects. For me, it comes down to land and development. Like, Mayor, you're talking about the Growing Communities Funds for capital asset. Well, this is going to develop our capital assets. Do we know, like, can I get more information about what grants are available or what have been available to provide that service for us? Right, like contracted services, training staff to become land use planners. Like, is there much grants out there available for that?
Ms. Scott?
I don't have that information.
Thanks.
Councillor Julick and then Councillor Hoffman, sorry.
I Mayor Kauka, when you talked about the different capital projects and thinking that 650 should be more around there, I don't disagree with you. I still think that this position is important. I think that if we had to do it without the growing community funds, currently they're saying 117,000 from those if we got the South Peace Mackenzie Trust. Otherwise, we would be looking at 260, which is a big chunk. And what could we do with the growing community funds without? I don't know, but I take your point that if we're benefiting the community, maybe we need to be looking at I guess it comes down to so do we spend taxation money in doing something that we wouldn't necessarily so we'll have that 260, right, is what I'm saying. So either way, we either use the $260,000 and we don't tax it, so it's not so we're not going to raise our taxation dollars, or we use that 260 for some capital project, meaning that then we have to have the $260,000 in order to do the taxing, or of taxation in order to be able to fulfill the position. I think regardless, we need to do the position. I see.
Okay, you got me confused.
Okay, so we have $260,000
Yeah.
if we don't get the South Peace Mackenzie Trust. So,
We have $280,000 if we don't.
well, we already said 20 we were going to use for taxation.
Okay.
So over and above what they have in the report, so it would be
Yep.
the 260,
Gotcha.
right? So for me, that means we're either using $260,000 because we're not going to take that out of the growing community funds, and we subsidize that whole amount by taxation dollars, the 260, or we we take it out of the growing community funds and don't do a $260,000 capital project. So it's one of those things to me that, so do we decide, it's tax us now or tax us later is what it amounts to. And so for me, I don't know where we're at with that. What I can read from this report is that this is needed. And I do remember that there was a time where there was a planner here when we first moved here in 2011, because I remember having to come in and talk. And I'm not saying, it sounds like, to me, the report's well-written. It's given a lot of reasons as to why that person should be here. And frankly, I'm okay to do it whichever way. And for me, if we can go ahead and use the growing community funds to begin with, let's go ahead and do that. I think it benefits our community. It benefits our community the same way a capital project would, in the fact that we're getting stuff done sooner, because if you have to use urban systems, you got to do things on their timelines, whereas if we have somebody in-house, they can give us a lot more information a lot quicker, because this is what they're trained for, this is what they know, and it benefits us. We have a very well-planned community that already. I think that the original architects of our community did a really good job, and I would like to be able to continue with that. And I think to have the expertise on staff, if after 2 years it looks like that person's indispensable, well then at that point senior staff will have to come and have a good reason why we extend the spot. So I think either way, I would like to approve it with or without the Growing Communities Fund. So I don't know, I would do it as is with the Growing Communities Fund, but I would also support a motion if you wanted to say that it would all come from taxation.
Okay, Councillor Hoffman and Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. I must be missing something. We've been talking about economic development since we started sitting down here. Now we're talking about a dedicated person for 2 years to push these projects forwards under the supervision of our current economic development department. 2-year commitment, nothing more. We have 2 ways to finance it. If we get a grant, it's less out of the other one. I was just reading up on the purpose of the growth fund there is for exactly what we're talking about. A person in charge of doing those projects is as close as you get to do it without the concrete being poured. I want to see if this person can get something done. If they get 1 or 2 major projects done in 2 years, I want the discussion for council at the time to say, okay, do we do another 2 years or do we make it a permanent position? If we need the economic development, maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe that's the discussion we have, is it's too early or we don't want to do that right now. But we have large-scale projects that need capacity that we don't have. Here we have 2 years and we see if they were worth it or not. And if we're not, then we were too early and we have a discussion in 4 years or 6 years or 8 years again. But I appreciate what staff put down, that there is a minimal taxation commitment. If we get a grant for it, it's even less out of this other fund, which is not dedicated right now. But the Growing Communities Fund, to me, when I read what it's there for, this matches. We don't know which project this person's going to be working on, but we have several that need attention. So I'm missing on what's missing for this to not be a good idea for right now. And I understand that those funds could end up going somewhere else, but who's going to manage that project? Who's going to get that done when we decide we want X, Y, or Z down the road? Economic development needs more capacity. That's what staff has found, and that's what I've seen in the last couple of years, is that they do need more. Doesn't matter that we don't have what we would like in town to cover some of the things that they do. There's nothing on their list that I would say, stop doing that and do this instead. So I am fully in support of this. I don't see any issues with the 2 options for covering costs. And I would love to see that this person could push and get something done on the economic development side of things over the next 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly understand the need. We certainly have some areas that we would like to develop. Councillor Hoffman, you mentioned, have any of these projects that you speak of, has any of them been important enough to push through to a contractor to move forward? I'll come back to that. I'm just curious, like, 2 years is not a long time. You know, they certainly will show their worth, I'm sure. But looking at our community report here, district's team of 111 employees. This is about 20% more than I'm aware of previously of my previous term here. We're continuing to add. Everything that we add adds taxation. I'm not interested in a 10% taxation increase to residents this year. The problem we have with adding these things is we're not seeing implications on our overall budget. And I think that's one of the reasons our budget system is a bit flawed, is we get these budgets, we approve all these things, and all of a sudden we get implications and we're like, oh. I'm not in favor of adding more. If council wants to push a certain development forward, that's what contractors are there for. We've had an established contractor for community planning for the last 30 years with our community. They're very well aware of our community, more so than somebody we bring in that is brand new and has to take a year and a half to catch up to the community plan. 111 employees is plenty for our community. I'm not in favor of any more.
Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to respond to the implication of taxation. I think we need to be honest with ourselves here that we're over 2 years, we're adding $20,000 to taxation. So or it's coming out of the Growing Communities Fund. We're only asking, the staff is only asking for $20,000 of taxation over 2 years. That's all that they're asking for. I can appreciate the Councillor Bertrand's comments about the amount of employees that we had. In reference to, our previous council, we had 70 full-time employees, but we had like 40 casual employees that weren't usually included in those annual reports. So it's not that we suddenly added 40 employees. We're just recording them differently. Because I do recall having well over 100 employees if you included all the casual and part-time people. So yeah, we're adding things, because I think it's important for us that if a department comes and says we're at capacity, that's what we need. We've approved an electrician. We've approved a mechanic. These things are tangible. We can feel. I get that. And this is not really a tangible thing because it's a planning position. But the results that can come out of it are very tangible. This means capacity. My only concern is if we keep going to contractors, we have to use more taxation from that. My concern is that we don't have grant funding for that. So it's going to cost us more in taxation in the long term, which is why I'm in favor of this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Julik?
Can I just clarify, because it's a contract position, it would be an exempt position, correct?
Ms. Scott? No idea. I'm sorry.
It would not be a union position, no.
Any other discussion? Okay, I'm not going to support it. I think, again, until I see tax implications, and I understand you're saying 20 grand, and I agree with you until something else goes wrong. And then when we get to the tax implications, and all of a sudden we start to see the increase, and this council's going to say, oh, geez, it's too late to cut certain things. Too late. I've been very adamant about getting this budget in front of council for the last couple months, month and a half, because I think it's important for us to hear where we're at. I don't think we know where we're at. I don't think we did a good job last year. Council didn't do a good job setting the budget last year. I don't think we did a good job. Because we set an example of this is what we want, and we've seen it with our own budget, that we actually under budgeted for doing conferences and travel. Because we led on that we didn't need this number because we hadn't used it, but actually it wasn't. It'll all come out, but it'll all flush itself out that some of this stuff was not done right. I wish Ms. Scott would talk about it. It's hard when we don't have a budget process in front of us yet, but there's going to be some implications of maybe the 2025 budget, that we didn't budget properly and budget enough in the process. So that's what's scaring me. We see it with our own budget. We've seen it in front of us, so we've done it. We've had to increase a bit of money on the health side so we could do the dinners and stuff like that. We've also increased the budget by saying that when we are attending stuff for health reasons, and that we can go and travel. That's going to be all unbudgeted funds, folks. That's a concern, and I get it. It's only $20,000, Councilor Norbury, and I do. I have a hard time with it on my own when you talk about it's $20,000. Like I think the same way. Oh, it's only 20 grand. until it adds up. And it's not that I don't think that we need to talk about this position. I want to talk about it when we see it, what we see with right now, what we're starting to do, the increase on the budget. I'll be honest, I probably shouldn't have done the pre-approval on the electrical position. I mean, I think we need it. There's no question in my mind of what we're dealing with within our community when it comes to that, and listening to staff that we're having a hard time getting a contractor to come up because they're taking on so much load and there's not enough guys around that they've moved their shop right directly into Fort St. John or closed one of their outlets. I got that on the electrician, and I get this from the other departments as well. But you know, right now we have two individuals in the ECDEV department. We talk about what one scope of work is in this report. There's no scope of the second individual in here. So again, when I talk only $20,000, I think it's nothing. It's not much of an impact until we see the whole impact of the budget. And that's, to me, I just can't support it until I can see the budget in front of me. It's not that I would not support this during budget conversation. So whether if this goes through, that's fine. If it doesn't, I would support applying through the South Peace Mackenzie Trust for the $142,500 to support the proposed 2-year planning. And if that's approved, then we can talk about it during budget. But if this goes through, I support the will of council, but right now I cannot support it. Councillor Julik and then Councillor Hoffman will be the last person.
Okay, I'm just looking for clarity, and you actually brought it up when you were talking, because I was going to say, well, can we just defer this and talk about it at the budget? Is there a hurry to make this go through? When I hear, and this isn't the first time I've heard that, there are folks either sitting up at this table or folks within our community think that we are overstaffed as the District of Tumbler Ridge. Yet, for the 3 years, and this is my 4th year, we never talk about that when it comes time to budget. We're told, or when I ask about it to whomever, it's about service levels. What kind of service levels do we want to keep? And so we never really bump into that, and it's not a comfortable conversation ever to have, because it's not just jobs, it's faces, it's people, it's family, it's all of those things. At the same time, I'm not appreciative of hearing things like we're overstaffed when we haven't ever looked at staffing. And to see and to decide as a council what kind of service levels do we want to keep. I think this snowfall goes to show us how amazing our staff are in trying to keep us shoveled out when the snow just keeps falling from the sky. And so I think, though, that means we need to do our job as council and take a really good look at budget, which I think means we're all going to have to put in a little bit extra time because we're behind in that. So for me, if we're able to push this to our budget conversations, I'm happy to have it move to that. If we can defer it to budget conversations, if that's the way we do it, defeat this motion, I'm happy to do it there, because I agree with you. Let's take a look at what we're looking at, full curtain up, whatever. So I know I'm long-winded and I haven't seen Councillor Noxana give me the point yet, but anyways, I hear what you're saying, and I'm comfortable to wait until budget time. So I don't know what I have to vote for. I'm guessing I would have to vote against it, and then we could move it.
So I wouldn't be in favor of deferring this. To me, council will make their own decision if they support or don't. Again, I would support the concept of applying for the grant. Until I heard that, I wouldn't be willing to discuss it anymore. Okay. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your comments. I found them very useful. The only question I had is there a timeline for the applying for the grant? Because that's what I don't want to lose out on. If we say no today, that the grant won't be available 4 months or 6 months after budget. So that's the question I had.
Yeah, I mean, I can ask staff. My comment would be if this doesn't pass, then I think another motion needs to go forward. We still apply for the grant. Okay. I think it's worth applying for, but I mean, staff needs to clarify on that, because maybe I'm wrong. We have to do it this way to get it, and then if that's the case, I might have a different opinion now. I mean, let's get clarity. I can only speak from what I've read in the report, information I've gathered in my own brain, the questions I've asked. But Ms. Scott, like, if this does not pass, does it stop us from applying for the grant?
We need a motion to apply for the grant.
Yeah. But if this motion doesn't pass, we can put a new motion on the floor. This motion's all included, and the whole thing was read out as a motion.
I don't think so, and I don't think so, because my suggestion would be maybe we just amend the motion that's on the floor, if that's the will of council. Because essentially, even though even though this is a part of this motion, we're still making another motion that says exactly the same thing without the first two parts in it. So I don't think we can do that.
You don't think we can do what? We can't defeat this and just put the motion on to apply for the grant?
Yeah, because it's the same motion. And so that's why I'm wondering if the better option is to amend the motion that's on the floor
Okay,
to take out the first two pieces.
okay. Okay, I appreciate the insight. Councillor Hoffman?
As I understand it, could we not just amend the motion to make it contingent upon approval of the grant instead of taking out the first two sections?
I think we got some clarity. Ms. Scott?
So for clarification, we can't apply for the grant without commitment of matching funds.
Thank you for that. Oh, did you? Sorry. Did you have anything or no?
I just realized, like, we can't just, we would have to, sorry, I wasn't listening, Ms. Scott. I just realized that as it says, we would still have to match, like, we would still have to do something with the growing community funds if we weren't going to allow the growing community funds, correct? Like, if the will of council is to only use South Peace Mackenzie, we would still have to put in money from the DTR, correct?
Yep, so I mean, that's why my thing is I won't support it until I know that we have the grant. Because then it's a discussion to be had where the money comes from, whether it's taxation or we take from taxation and growing communities fund, or we're only take from the growing community fund. Again, that's why I say that. That's my personal thoughts, but up to council. Councillor Julie.
And so my question is we have, like, in order to apply for the grant, we need to make sure that we have the first part of the motion in place so that we can say what we're funding for.
Ms. Scott.
Like, what would you, like, my suggestion would be, or my thought would be, like, we would have to put something like, submitting an application.
Well, hang on one second. We'll get
Yeah.
clarity for you. Ms. Scott?
So I think the part that you're missing, where you said you'd missed what I said before, was that in order to apply for this grant, we have to have commitment of matching funds.
Thank you. Okay, going to call a question on the motion. The motion on the floor is that council approve the creation of a planning development coordinator position as a 2-year contracted role beginning in 2026, and that the position be funded through the combination of the Growing Communities Fund, the South Peace Mackenzie Trust, if approved, and taxation is outlined in the financial/budget implications section of this report, and the council approve by resolution that district submitting an application to the South Peace Mackenzie Trust for $142,500 to support the proposed 2-year planning and development coordinator position. Going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Councillor Bertrand, Councillor Julick, Mayor Kirkcalker are opposed. Got one, or you want to write one up?
I'd like to make one.
Okay.
I'm just not sure how the best way is to go about it. We have a 5-minute recess and I can go and talk to Ms. Scott.
Okay, we'll do a 5-minute recess. Okay, moving on. 9.4, proposed service agreement for winter road maintenance with Steep Rock Strata. Report dated December 15, 2025, from the Director of Operations and Infrastructure regarding the proposed service agreement for winter road maintenance with Steep Rock Strata. Recommendation, please. Move the recommendation for the, oh, never mind. Councilor Bertrand.
I'd like to move for discussion, please.
Seconder. Councilor Noxana. All in favor? Carried. Councilor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. I like the report. I like the agreement. Definitely be looking for cost recovery on this, as it is private property. I'm just curious if Steep Rock has seen or agreed to this service agreement.
Ms. Scott.
They have not seen this agreement yet, but it does contain all of the things that we had discussed in a meeting with them.
Follow-up?
Yeah, my only question with this agreement is whether or not they can afford it. I think it's a full meal deal. I think, if we try to piece this agreement out and only provide the plow truck, I think it's going to become unpassable by the time we get to March.
Hey. Sorry, I thought the popcorn was full. My apologies.
Yeah, I'm curious on Steep Rock's take on this agreement, but I like this agreement. It's pretty straightforward. It's a full meal deal, cost recovery. Yeah, I'm in favor of this.
Yeah, Ms. Scott might want to go over the agreement. The agreement's on a full meal deal. It's whatever the Strata wants. Strata only wants the sand truck through there. That's all that will go through there. But Ms. Scott, maybe you can just go over that. Just because you're saying full meal deal and you're talking about it all, it's actually in that thing there that it's right now, it's just a plow truck and sander, and then they'll work with staff with whoever's selected as a contact person for themselves, and then the Strata will pick one. But Ms. Scott?
That's correct. The way the agreement is written is that the regular service that they would get is the plow truck and sander. And then there would be discussions between the district and the Strata board if we thought additional services were needed, if snow was piling up too high in one area, needed to be removed, and then that would be a mutually agreed upon additional service.
Councillor Hoffman, then Councillor Julik.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. I thought you guys did a really good job, especially in the short term of putting the agreement together. Everything we discussed is there. The only thing that I would like to change is Article 2, Term of Agreement 2.2 overholding, as I just want it struck. I want this agreement done at the term of June 1st, 2026. I am not in control of Strata there, but I want them to understand that this is just for this year to get them through, and that they have the year to figure out how they want to do this going forward. This is private property. I don't want this to be a habit. I don't want this to be a long-term solution for them. I don't live there. I don't have property in there. I have to say $30 a month seems awfully low for a monthly Strata. I think they might have to have those discussions internally, but as far as affording it and how they're going to pay for it, that's up to them on how they want to manage that. But again, I thank staff for getting exactly what we asked. I do want the residents there to feel safe and to have medical access. I had one resident tell me of an incident after we discussed it last time of where they were waiting 45 minutes for an ambulance, which is exactly what I want to solve. And thank you. I will.
If you want something stroke, you need to put a motion on it.
Okay.
Sorry, if you're a planner, you want to wait for more discussion, but
But that's fair enough. I move that we strike 2.2 from the contract and leave it just as June 1st, 2026 termination.
seconder on the amendment. Councillor Bertrand, discussion on the motion, so it's not an amendment. Talking to that. Just got a, Ms. Scott, this was dealt with by legal. Any issues with us changing this without it going back to legal?
No, there would be no issue with striking this, and I would agree it's probably in the best interest to strike this.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Councillor Knoxana is opposed. Motion carries. So that 2.2, the overhauling is now removed from this contract. Okay, any other discussion? Councillor Julik.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hoffman. I had that on my list as well. I am still against us doing this, period. I think that staff did exactly what we asked them to and came back with an amazing agreement. And if it goes forward, I'm comfortable that it's in the agreement. I still think, and I know that I just see more headaches again. Like, if we're giving them a menu, essentially, to me, it just opens up staff and the district for a few more headaches, because they think, oh, well, the snow plowing and sanding is this. Well, how come you didn't, like, because then I see questions coming, well, I thought that it meant this. And then you're having those conversations back and forth. So I think for me, that's where this is where my concerns around the contract lay, simply because they get to pick and choose. So it's not the same as the rest of the district, where our public works guys who know what they're doing, who do it all the time, know what needs to be done. And then in this case, it just brings people into play in the kitchen a little bit, is where I sit with that. And the other thing is it's still a strata. It still opens us up to the other stratas in the community. I know we debated this before, so I'm not going to go on with that. I'm just going to say I'm not in favor of this, and I won't be voting in favor of this once if a motion is put on the floor tonight.
Okay. Before I go to Councillor Norbury, I got one, I guess, question to Ms. Scott at this point. I know it talked about getting, legal and stuff like that. Did we get a legal opinion if we go in and follow as per the ask of the strata, that they only want the sand truck and plow or the sander truck to go through, but we know for a fact that more needs to be done because of the safety or not? Is there any liability risk that the district's taking on? I read the contract, states this, it states that. Did we ask those specific questions? We're the snow removal experts. We know that, we need to blow the snow or we need to remove piles because it's a safety concern. Did we ask those questions if there's a liability to the municipality?
We didn't ask for that specific opinion from legal. Legal did review the contract. They did suggest some changes to it. They thought that the contract was well worded for protecting us in terms of liability. But we did not ask that specific question.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Councillor Norbury and then Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I spoke with Steep Rock regarding their conversation with the district, and they felt happy with how those conversations went, and I have no doubt that it's reflected here. So that's why I'm in favor of it now. I mean, we had 180 homes come to us saying that this is something they're looking for. I can appreciate private land, but these are roadways.
Sorry.
And so that's why I'm in favor of it today.
Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to speak to Councillor Julik, some of their concerns. Reading over it, release and waiver, indemnification, 9.2, 9.3, limitation of liability, 9.4, damage to property adjacent to strata, 9.5. I think staff has done a really good job of addressing the concerns that we had at the last meeting, and it was one of the things I was very much looking for on could we reasonably do that. And in the end, the strata has to decide on how they want to approach it. For example, we brought up, we think you need to clear more, and they choose not to. It's still strata's responsibility. They're the one managing what they have going there, and the agreements are for cost. So if there's a disagreement on what gets done and they say don't do it, then any damage or whatever results from it, and they could always get, if they find somebody, they could always get that person to come in and do it all. If they don't need the city anymore, then great. Then they have their solution for this year and next year. But I do want the people living there to have a safe access. Days like this just reinforce that I'm hoping that they can come up with a long-term solution over the next, let's call it 11 months. But I think that's just part of what we need to do as council, is if there's a group of people in town that need help, that we do our best to help them. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Can I make a couple comments? It's great to hear that Council Norbury maybe had a different discussion than I got to have with some of the strata ownership. My understanding, the District of Tunbridge is already receiving complaints of the berms were leaving in people's driveways. We haven't yet to be inside the strata on that private property doing snow removal. Secondly, the amount of messages I've received so far from the strata in regards to it. Also, in the prioritizing of the snow removal, the strata is very concerned on that, because my understanding, the meeting I had with Ms. Scott and the strata, they could not believe that they're that down low on the list. So there is already some concerns. I'm glad to see that maybe Councilor Norbury had a different discussion, but I had that discussion with the president and the vice president. They were very concerned about where they sat, and they can't believe that they would be that low. And we tried to explain to them, again, we looked today, the amount of snow that was received, and I can only imagine how many times the snow removal team had to go back to a priority area to redo it. I just want to make sure we're not doing injustice to this private property ownership when it comes to snow removal. I wonder what the liability and legals we're taking on, even though what this contract states. When all of a sudden we're not in there for 5 or 6 days because we received that much snow within the municipality that we have yet to finish, never mind the priority around our community, but the medium, and then the low, and then other areas. It's very concerning. My understanding, I've had businesses reach out to me. I've asked for emails. There's no, I haven't received any today. I didn't check before the meeting started, but you know, there were some concerns from some of the business community about why should we keep buying more equipment if the District of Tunbridge is going to start taking over private property snow removal. I told them to send an email, so hopefully we'll see some emails here in the next week or so. But those are my concerns. I think the legal liability the municipality is going to take on as a corporation. Not so much the ownership of businesses or other businesses that do snow removal, but I'm very concerned when it comes to, you know, we don't get to them soon enough. And, you know, Councillor Hoffman, you mentioned about the one lady you talked to and stuff. That's my concern. What happens when we, you know, I mean, I don't know if we've ever seen this much snow day after day after day. It's the most I think I've seen since I lived here at 18 years. Usually we get a break and we're able to get a chance to clean it up. But I think that's my concern is, you know, Ms. Scott was in the meeting, but I mean, in my understanding, these people, unless they have a different opinion when they were reading this contract, or they even haven't even read it yet, but I don't think they realize where they sit on the priority list for snow removal, and that's a concern. That's a concern for me, knowing what you know we see, and I think maybe what they may be expecting. Again, my biggest concern was, and I called it out, that we'd be receiving, well, as soon as we went in there to start doing snow removal, we start receiving complaints. Staff has already received complaints. We haven't even been in there yet. I care about the staff that works for the municipality. I think they're doing a great job, and to see negative impact because we're going to go in and start removing snow on a private area, I think the implications there could be negative against staffing. Might be my 2 cents. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Does this agreement prevent CPROC from reaching out to other snow removal organizations if it can't be done to their timeline?
Nope.
So like, if they are unhappy with the service, they are able to seek services elsewhere? That's kind of where I'm getting at. Like, this is not pigeonhole them into it's us or anybody else. They do have options. I think like every new contract dealing with is that if we need to set expectations. And, you know, you've had private conversations as have I. And as long as we can get those expectations to them, which I thought were there, that they were on the last priority, and if not, we explain that to them. And just like every other road in this community that complains about the snow berms, we have to explain that the priority is getting the snow off the roads, and then we'll come back. That's just how it's done. We need to set expectations and communicate. I have no doubt that we can do that. And if they are unhappy, unfortunately, there are other snow removal services in the community. Thank you.
Ms. Scott, it does not stop them from using it elsewhere.
Correct.
Thanks. Okay, any other discussion? Motion is needed to move forward. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. That council authorized staff to proceed with developing and executing a service agreement between the District of Tumbler Ridge and the Steep Rock Strata for winter road maintenance services, including sanding, plowing, based on a full cost recovery and as a lower priority service relative to municipal roadways.
Seconder. Councilor Noxana, discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councilor Juliak, Mayor Kralk opposed. Motion carries. Schedule of meetings. We'll be calling a special meeting tomorrow for 5:05. 5:05. And that is the deal with the two bylaws. It had to be 24 hours from the last reading. It was 5:05. It was 5:04 and 32 seconds if you want to get real specific, but I'd prefer 5:05. Just so everybody's aware too, with the sledding the set with Santa on December 19th. Anything else from council? Council Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Just that sledding Santa is at 5 p.m., not 6
5
p.m.
p.m., 6 p.m., 5 p.m. Meeting.
Community center parking lot.
Okay. Anything else from council? Okay, so special meetings tomorrow night, 5:05. Anything else from staff? Ms. Scott?
No.
Thank you. Okay, any notice of motions? Okay, councilor's business, thanks, Councilor Noxana. Anything from the floor? Councilor Julik?
I just wanted to make a mention, the meeting was on, I don't know, late last week, for the library. They have a new pod in there, which is a place where you can go in and it's, so you can have private meetings, and they have had it used by folks to do some medical meetings, and it went very well. A couple were able to do a private medical meeting in there and didn't have to worry about Wi-Fi because they had staff there to help them and stuff like that. They're getting new shelving in, and this is all paid for by a provincial grant. So the pod is available for anybody to book, and yeah, I think everybody should try it out. They haven't got all the books on the shelves yet in the library, but they look pretty good on the floor. They're putting them together anyway, so. And there's also to keep an eye open for some privacy baffles around adult, like computers for adults, not the kids' computers. And yeah, and so, and if the pod's available, like there's been some of that when the kids are a little noisier and they're playing their games and stuff, that some of the adults have used that space. But I thought it was really encouraging to hear the incident. I think there was a job interview in there once too, but it was the healthcare stuff that was really cool that I heard about, so that some folks that were not comfortable with doing it at home, worrying about all the things, that they could do it in the privacy of that space and still had people there to help them out with the tech if need be. So I will have a report. I just wanted to mention it because the biggest thing is apparently there is some talk that it was coming from the library budget, and it's the budget, but it's grant funds from the province specific for doing upgrades in the library.
Okay. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Holiday Jolly event, which was very well put on by staff. It was the busiest event they've ever had there. I know there was about 290 people that went through to see Santa, which was bigger than I've ever seen in my time at the library, so very well done. The tree light up was great, and then afterwards, you know, we had the traditional, everyone gets fed and sings Christmas carols. It was a pretty amazing time. I wanted to report on the South Peace Health Services Society. We just hosted our AGM. We're down to 5 to 3 members, so we're going to be advertising regionally for some more board members to keep that project alive. The main project is the Boltrees House. You know, we've been in talks with Ministry of Health, Northern Health, and we will be receiving funding for the next year for the Boltrees House, but it's going to be difficult with only 3 board members continuing that project. So just wanted to throw that out there. Thanks.
Thanks. Anything else from the floor? Again, I did the pear cup, and I appreciate Councillor Norbury doing the tree light up in the speech and stuff for me. Greatly appreciated. Attended the staff Christmas party and awards night on Saturday. Well done by staff and the organizing group. At the next meeting, not tomorrow, but the next meeting in January, we'll have a bit more to say about some of the people for long year awards and stuff. We were hoping to have it done today and be able to do it tonight. But we've got time-sensitive issues that happen, and we're unable to complete that task before the meeting tonight. So that'll be something we look at doing in January. But yeah, I think it's important to make sure we're recognizing employees that work for Ms. Scott or her senior staff team that have put in some long years and stuff like that. So that conversation will happen in January. Had a meeting with the Northern Health Board. We should see an answer sometime this week, they say, 7 to 10 days. 10 days would be on the 18th. Optimistic, I guess I am. I think we've seen some things. I've had reporters reach out to me. I gotta circle back now, but you know, wasn't feeling good the last couple of days, so I was at home. But they've done an announcement. Not sure if all this stuff that Dave said I agree with yet, so I got to circle back to that and kind of get some clarity from Northern Health. To me, they talk about meeting with some councillors and not other councillors. I believe that's the Health Task Force. I've asked that for clarity because the way they word it, it doesn't state that. So I think they need to be very clear what they're saying when they do those updates because, I mean, I'll be honest, as the mayor, and I would think the rest of you as elected officials, councillors, a little concerning when they say we've had some certain discussion with certain councillors. I believe it's the Health Task Force. I'm going to be honest with you, that's my guess. I do sit on the committee that we have our medical advisor as well as our CAO sit on to try and work through some of the concerns or issues of trying to get our ER back open, so definitely sit on there. I wouldn't say a whole bunch has come out of there. I think we'll see more. My understanding is they did give us a slideshow there. I've talked about it previously. They needed to take that away and get some answers looked at. There was some information that we were asking for that in their slideshow presentation would be important to have in regards to their modeling. My understanding, she did reach out. I forwarded it on to Ms. Scott to try and set up a meeting. And then they wanted it enclosed or in camera is what they call it. And yeah, I don't believe we should ever be in an in-camera meeting with Northern Health. I don't think it's right. If as long as the information does not have to be enclosed, and my understanding when Ms. Scott went through the process, we will sat through the same presentation. So it sounds like looking in January, but they'll do it remotely. They don't want to come in the community and do the slideshow personally here in the council chambers. So they'll stay remote. Look forward to that. The Northern Health Board meeting, I think it went over well. I'll be honest. I think, you know, we had the board's ear. Appreciate them taking the time to meet with council and staff and our medical advisor. We did have Larry Neufeld there, the MLA. You know, I think council kind of, you know, I started it off and then council kept on going. And we still had the same direction, just tried different ways in regards to me, communication, how it was dealt with. We want our ER open. How does it happen? So we'll wait and see what they come back with, and I say that lightly. I wait till the 18th, and I really hope that we hear by the 18th, because if we don't, I think the first thing I'll be doing is sending an email on the 19th, as that's been 10 days. We need to hear from them first, but I think before we can make a plan to go forward. So once we hear from them, I think, you know, I'll be honest, Christmas is coming. I know I'm not sure what everybody's schedule is, but if we hear back from the board, we probably will have a second special meeting on this month. I think it's really important if we hear back, doesn't matter what we hear, whether it's negative or positive, that we get it out in front of council so we can make some decision on what route we're going. I mean, I'll make a decision that night when I first get the news which way I'm going, but I think council needs to meet so that we're flying down the right street, because this is coming to a head and we need to move it forward, or we're just going months and months without after hours ER, and I think that's, to me, it's not worth it. I mean, we need to work from our side on what does it look like if we move and start looking for staffing. How does that look? I'll be honest, that's what I'm prepared to start doing, because we need the doctors. We have great healthcare facility. We got great healthcare workers that are staying within our community working. But if those healthcare and allied healthcare workers that are staying here to work are not getting the overtime they normally got with the after-hours callback model, those individuals could also leave our community, which really scares me. I'm well aware that we already have some nurses leaving our community, not full-time leave, but they're just going out and working other hours at other hospitals to gain some income. That's concerning, because they're not getting what they used to get. So I think our job is to make sure ER gets back open on the after-hours. Question answer period, Ms. Scott. Anything you emailed in?
No.
Thank you. Take a resolution to a closed meeting, please. Councillor Noxana.
That the December 15th, 2025 regular council meeting be closed to the public according to Section 90C and K of the Community Charter to permit discussions about labor relations or other employee relations, and K negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are in their preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public.
Seconder. Councillor Norbury, all in favor? Carried. 5-minute recess.